Small bank deposits plunge 275 billion in March. There's just one thing, ... Small banks saw a tiny 1.1 billion outflow, which prompted much rejoicing early on Monday when markets opened. That tiny outflow was revised to a massive 47.5 billion outflow according to this week's data. On a seasonally adjusted basis, small banks saw around 275 billion in outflows in March, which included the week running up to SVB's or Silicon Valley Bank's collapse, while large banks have seen 195 billion in outflows during the same period. Last week's outflows from large, small, and foreign banks are as follows. Large banks, negative 39.9 billion for the week ending in the 29th versus 89 billion in the negative compared to last week. Small banks, negative 44 billion, 45 billion versus the plus 5.8 billion last week. And foreign banks, negative 26.4 billion versus the negative 41 billion they saw last week. There are two key questions raised by the recent deposit turmoil. How many deposits do banks ultimately lose to higher yield money markets? And how costly is it to replace this funding? The Fed stepped in, started printing money, pretty much staving off the bank runs, handling deposits, keeping up the illusion that all the money that people want and have put in the bank is actually in the bank when it's not. It's a fractional reserve. But it's all about managing perceptions. We're seeing capital flee from small banks, put them into large banks and even foreign banks. What does this tell you? The average investor, retail investor, even institutional investors, or just regular mom and pop are scared of the United States banking system and its solvency. And the Fed's over there trying to plug up all the holes with money. And they tapered, 400, 600 billion over the course of 5-6 months. And in 2 weeks, they printed it to save Credit Suisse and everything else. That trend is not going to stop. The Fed's going to tighten. The Fed's going to tighten. What do you think caused all these banks to start collapsing? The Fed tightening. It's a rock and a hard place, and they're going to print.